Morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am awake.
Yeah.
In my granny nighty, just, but I'm here.
Not your granny nighty.
Hey, you know what? Comfort.
Listen, I'm all for it.
Granny chic. I'm like granny chic over here.
Granny was chic now. Some of the moo-moos was hitting.
Right? So I woke up like this I'm still half asleep like this, but I'm present. I'm here. How are you?
I ditto. I'm good. I definitely could have taken some more sleep, but we'll work that all out later sometime.
Naps.
Yeah, naps are part of 2021. They're a big part of 2021.
Yeah. I like that.
Good morning.
How was everybody? Oh, it's so bright.
So who's September? I gotta ask. It's probably a child's name.
Oh, yeah, somebody.
Gotta be. Because I'm
I have done that before, and Corey had like a Fortnite face instead of like his face.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was a really good time. Because everybody was like, who is this Fortnite character?
Hilarious.
Like, I'm like, oh, that's me.
Yeah. It's kind of like that duality of parenting. I've definitely gone into meetings and they've been like, who's Eleni? Like, oh, no, that would be.
And you can't even like hop out and change it, so you're like, I was stuck.
No, I'm like, sorry. My daughter's been doing a course.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Good morning.
I can hear you. Good morning.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to go grab my coffee.
Okay. Just gonna give a few more minutes and see who pops in. I know Kim said she may be like behind the scenes. She's got some stuff going on this morning. So just give a few more minutes and then we'll hop into it. How are you, Alicia?
I'm good. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
And September is my husband's name.
Oh, get out. That's so interesting. Very cool. Okay. I was like, who is this?
I didn't realize that his name would come up because it's my laptop, so I don't know.
Oh, does he use your Zoom?
He does.
Okay, so that's probably it. Mm-hmm. It's all good. I'll never question it again. I was like, who's trying to sneak into our private meeting? All right. Right. I think I'll get started because we have a few things to go through. But anyhow, happy 2021, everybody. We have made it. We are here. Like no Martians descended, nothing combusted at 12:01. I was almost like, it's pretty bad when you're kind of like anticipating like something. It almost felt like Y2K. For those that remember that, like it almost, right? It felt a little like Y2K for me this year. I was kind of like bracing myself, like, how's it gonna go? But I guess I kind of realized like we were okay when I thought like, okay, my assistant is like in the Philippines. So I'm like, okay, she's 12 hours ahead. So they were good. Fireworks are going over there. So I was like, if they're good, then we're good. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I'm super, like, I'm excited for this year, you know, like, but in a different kind of way. You know, it's not a feeling of, you know, new year, who this kind of thing. It's just like, I don't know, hopeful. You know what I mean? Like really optimistically hopeful. So I think it's fairly like early in the year for us to share any wins per se, because we did that last month. But I thought that it would be great if we could like share, if you've even thought of like what your words of the year are, like what do you feel your theme for the year is going to be. um and if you just want to share a little bit about like, you know, why you came to that and what that means for you, I would love to hear it. I think it'd be really great for all of us to carry with us to hear what we're after this year. So whoever wants to go first, feel free.
I can go. So my word of the year is I did a lot of planning and vision boarding, and me and the boys did a lot of work this week. But my word is going to be intent, because oftentimes, I mean, I feel like I do a lot. I'll be honest with you. Like when I was doing my vision board yesterday, there isn't very much I feel I want. Like I feel very content entering 2021. Sure, I could improve, and there's areas where I feel like I could, you know, turn up the heat a little bit. But for the most part, I feel very content and settled. And so my word of the year is going to be intent or intention, where everything I choose to do will be with intent. I will no longer say yes to things that don't match my things. I will no longer just be like, well, you know, let's figure it out. It has to have like an intention and a purpose. And I don't normally, it sounds weird to say out loud, but I don't normally live with intent. Like I normally am very much like, oh, you know, air sign, like go with the flow, like, you know. And so I want to be more purpose driven. And I think it'll be a work, I mean, it's gonna be hard for me. So I think it'll definitely, it'll be something that I will be proud of if I can complete by the end of next year. And that's it. That was all you asked, right?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. That's not my word, although it's like the sentiment behind it, I feel like is something I'm definitely looking forward to cultivating in my own life. Um, like I generally go after a lot. Like I'm uber ambitious Aries, like we just are. And I execute, no question, but I execute sometimes to my own demise, like to the demise of my own well-being, you know what I mean? So this year is kind of like one of those, like similar to what you're saying, Sally, where I'm kind of like, even down to conversations and who I'm giving my time and energy to, like a lot is going to change. And I think it already has started. I've started feeling it since last year. But that intent is huge. So I love that that's where you're at with it, because definitely that's been top of mind for me. Who else?
I'll go next. My word is trust. Um, and it was all about me going back to the foundation of who I am as a person, as a professional, as a friend, as Kirsten. And trust is one of those crazy things. You're like, when it's broken, when it's breached, it's very difficult to get back. So 2020 blessed me in a way that I had the time to be more patient and really just let things work out the way that they were going to work out, and trust that everything was going to be okay. Because after the things that I went through, not that 2020 was great, but after the things that I went through in 2019, like if Jesus, I survived that, you know, like not in jail, not in court about to go to jail. So it was a major thing for me to really take my hands off of things and just let stuff go the way that it is, and just trust that everything's going to be okay. So for 2021, I'm really leaning more into that, and know that things are going to elevate even higher than they have to this point.
I love that. Morning, Tessa. So Tessa came in, just wanted to share with you that because it's fairly early in the year, like literally it's like day 2. We probably don't have a lot of wins, but we were just sharing about like what our words or themes for the 2021 are going to be and like how we came to it. So not to put you on the spot in particular, but I just wanted you to know what we were doing here. But I love what Kirsten just said about trust. I'm sad that Shelly's not here because she and I had this discussion before. But like we're all born with stuff. I was not born with patience. Just to put that on out. It was certain things you get to a certain level in life where you have to be honest with yourself about what you got and what you don't. Right. And patience was just not one of those things I was given, like, here, give her plenty of patience. I just don't. But 2020 also made me, kind of cultivate that more, because I'm kind of like used to moving the chess pieces on my board, as I wish. And it's been the year where it was like, yeah, no, that's not how that's going to go. You're going to sit and you're going to let this unfold and it's going to be beautiful. And you're going to realize that you don't always have to be like, messing and tinkering with things. So yeah, I love the trust factor. Who else?
Okay, I'll go. I was thinking about this from last night after I read your email, Janine. But I echo a lot with what Shelley said in terms of my word being intention. And it's a few words. It's intention, living with more intent, being kinder to myself, and growth. 2020, one thing that 2020 taught me is that we can plan for but so much, and that I intend to live more in the now, in the moment, to behave and think more in the moment, to be more mindful that no matter what forces come my way, that I have control over how I react to certain situations, and to own in more on that. Also, the intention to be more kind to myself, because oftentimes I'm very hard on myself, and just all the way hard on myself. And then years later, I'll look back and go, oh my God, but I've accomplished so much. And then I'll feel proud in that moment. But again, it goes back to living with intention in the now, to be proud of myself in the moment and not in hindsight.
I can resonate with that, because I was just saying this to my sister yesterday, of like this internal negative talk track, right? And sometimes my talk track is real positive, so I'm not looking for sympathy, but oftentimes, I don't know if it's because my mom was such a hard person on me and like had such high standards that I still hear that. And so, I can go into anything looking like feeling real good, and then all of a sudden be like, nope, you're not good enough, and I refuse to call it imposter syndrome, but it's something like this, like in the back of the head of like this voice. And so I'd like to get rid of that. I'm going to work. I'm moving that into the intent bucket.
I'll share that as I grow into my career and just doing different things, I've just realized that I don't really, I've been in situations and spaces where I thought that others were more trained, better equipped, and all those things. So all those things that we talk about. And so different things that happened in 2020 have just really, and that was one of my motivations for being in this group. I I want to work on my confidence. I want to work on owning and knowing and owning everything that I have and celebrating that and stepping into spaces confidently, whatever those are, professionally or whatever it is, or so that I can reach all those things that I think other people are reaching that are unattainable for me. So I am going to stop telling myself that that's not for you, that's for someone else this year.
I can go. I'm still getting clarity, but as I'm thinking about it and hearing everyone, I think for me it's mindful release, just releasing all that does not serve me, people, energy, opportunities, situations, and doing it in a way that using things like, I mean, to look at it positively, looking at things like, does this bring me joy? And does this feel like a safe space or a safe connection? And if it doesn't, then it's not serving me. And so to release that quickly and release that intentionally, mindfully, so that I can honor boundaries, which was something that I had set intentions for last year, and to do that with ease and grace.
I love it. I think the part that resonated a lot with me with you, Salima, was the quickly. Because, even for me, like, I feel like there are a lot of people and situations that it's like, in your gut, it's time to get going, but you're like, no, longevity,
Mm-hmm.
no, because of this, maybe they were going through this, or maybe because you start to make all of these excuses about why you can't let go. And and it's like, in hindsight, kind of similar to what you were saying, Alicia, is when you have that clarity about, well, dang, I ended up all right. Like, they're not here anyway, right? Because they were supposed to be removed. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing or whatever it was supposed to be removed, but now it's like, oh shoot, I could have done that sooner. you know? So I think we do have to get accustomed to, I think, being far more decisive, not in a hasty fashion, but I think we're all women that know what we know, like, very deeply convicted. And when you know what you know, and you know well enough, you should feel very confident, I think, in making those pivots and changes accordingly, and trusting, to Kirsten's point, that wherever you're going to land is going to be where you're meant to be. You know what I mean? You're going to be fine. I think that's the piece. So for me, my words this year are harmony and alchemy. Harmony, largely because there's just so much happening that I know already I have to strike a different balance than I have in the past, and I've got to mean it. So literally, this is like a year where I'm looking to put the right things and people in place, especially like in my businesses, so that I can do more of the things I want to be doing, you know. Like, at some particular point, it's quite likely I may take like a 30-day sabbatical very soon, in the new year. And while that sounds wild and crazy when everybody's talking about, like, let's get it, let's go, let's do, I don't care, because I'm always working. Like, I'm always working, I'm always thinking, I'm always trying something. And what I need, and my family, my little nucleus needs, is a bit of a break. So, like, those are some things that I'm thinking about, but there just has to be a rhythm. Like, when I think about harmony, I think about a rhythm to things. And it's like, my business is now going on 8 years. I will hit 8 years on the 22nd, which is wild to me. But, you know, I feel like that's a number of abundance. I know the things that are coming for me, and it's a really good time to think about not just doing business for the sake of doing business, but doing things because like it's what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like I've put in the work now. So it's like, how do you really want this to look? You know, how do you really want your life to go the next 10, 15, you know? Um, so those are things I'm thinking about. And then when it comes to alchemy, you know, alchemy is kind of like, it's like this magical transformation, you know? And so there's a big part of me right now that's like reinventing myself. You know, like I'm rebranding my whole company, I'm rebranding, there's kind of like a rebranding of myself, like just even from like my style to my hair to everything. Like it's like my butterfly year. I've been in the cocoon, I've been incubating, you know, sticking like a piece of the wing out a little bit, pulling it back in. This is the year that I'm kind of like, okay, you know, you're gonna get this Janine, whatever that is, and like it, you know, and that's just what that is. But you know, that's what's exciting me about this year, is to kind of see where those two themes take me. So thank you for sharing, ladies. I think this is great, and I feel like we should come back to this, you know, a little bit every month, and maybe share, you know, how we're incrementally getting to these places that we're trying to get. Kind of in the same realm as, like, I've been thinking a lot about the last conversation we had about um, generational trauma, and how we kind of, I think it was Salima that coined the whole generational joy. Like, I feel like we should talk about that, you know, like if even for a moment, every meeting, like what are the things that we're doing to get to more of that joy? Because I find like when we share those things, it's like somewhat contagious. You know, it's like, oh, I want a piece of that. Oh, that resonates. Like, and you figure out like soon enough, like we're not all as different or struggling in, you know, silence as much as we think we are. Because I think we all echoed one another in a way, but just like from different places, you know. So we can definitely talk about that and think about that. But I did want to share with you guys something exciting before I kind of turn it over to Celinda, because she has some great stuff to share with us as a group, about, you know, different things that we want to do this year from an event standpoint. She's the director of events, so she came up with a great framework, and I felt like it was a good time to kind of kick off the year and give you a glimpse of where we're at and things we're talking about. But our logo is done, guys. I'm really excited. I'm so excited. It's so pretty. Um, so before I show it to you, I'll give you some background a little bit, because I was in a creative space like all throughout the holiday of having to reimagine my own logo for Talent Think, and then also having the Power Circle as a piece of it. And so a theme that's come up for me a lot when I think about the group and like who we are, I'm like, you know, I really want us to kind of be like a mosaic. You know what I mean? Like I see us as almost a mosaic of people. And I'm very into like sacred geometry. Like that's a big part of, you know, who I am and the things that I do. And so when I went to my branding person, you know, I kind of gave her the framework of who we are and what we do. And she came back with 3 options. And one just stuck out for me. And I was like, wow, that's like the flower of life. And so if for anybody that's not familiar with the flower of life, it's like 6 petals, but it's a sacred geometry that's supposed to be the blueprint for all things. So like within it is every single shape known to man, right? So if you think of a mosaic from an art standpoint, that's exactly what we are. Like it's the beginning and the end, the alpha and omega, you know, that whole thing. And so, you know, that's the way I see us. I see us as these individual pieces coming together, you know, almost in this mosaic kind of way to birth things really beautiful. You know what I mean? We're women, so that's what we're capable of too. Um, so she took that and she kind of then made it into almost like a mandala, if you're familiar with what a mandala looks like. And that also has a lot to do with unity and almost like spiritual awakening, consciousness, that kind of thing. So I will show you what she did. All right, can you see? Does everybody see it? Yeah?
We do now, yes.
Okay, cool. So that is the logo. I think it's awesome for her to not like literally be in my head because I'm really picky about stuff. So the idea that she got this on the second try is awesome. And I feel like, you know, when we do things like merch, you know, whether it's shirts or whatever it is, I feel like it'll look really pretty and be a great representation of us. So I hope you all like it. I did share it with the executive committee before everybody, but we have a logo, people. It's like we're becoming official. It's really exciting. So yeah, so that's the logo. And, you know, the team, the council and I were really trying to, you know, work hard over the next month or two to, you know, put more meat to who we are, you know, the values we embody, you know, what membership will look like going forward. We're thinking about, you know, philanthropy. So I think each month I'm going to try to have like one of the executive members just kind of share more of their vision with you so that, you know, you can get a sense of the direction, you know, because it's one thing to say, okay, we're a group, we come together. That's cute. It's nice. But I really think we have a chance to make a bigger impact than just us coming together and sharing. And so I want it to be meaningful for you. It's meaningful for me because it's my baby, but that's our logo. And I'm really excited. So hopefully this makes you excited too about where we're headed. So I'm gonna stop the share and Sel, if you're ready, feel free to jump in and start talking about your part of things because I think it's really exciting.
Okay. All right. So this is a recommendation, and I know I shared it with Janine, but there are pieces that you will see that need some help. And so I take direction and feedback really well, thanks to corporate America. So feel free to, you know, chime in if you get any ideas, whether it's chat or I'm open to you. Just take yourself off mute and we can make this like an open chat dialogue. But let me walk you through what my recommendation is for just this fiscal year, which is 2021. Bear with me. I'm gonna hit, oh, I shouldn't have did that first. Let me share screen first. It's a little early here, I'll be honest with you. Where are, your Zoom is different than mine. There it is. Oof.
I just gave you
Okay.
the controls. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was like, this is a different view, but okay, you should see now, right? And I'm gonna get rid of it so I can't see y'all faces, but let's go from here. I'm also not really good at the Google stuff, but we made it happen. So this, like I said, this is for fiscal 21. So just for this year, as I iterate on this, I will be trying to create like a 3-year plan, not necessarily saying I'll stay in this role in 3 years, but just so we can have framework going forward. But I'm a firm believer of before you create a program or anything really, even, you know, you could start a diet, of having some sort of mission and goals that would drive your program, your initiatives. And so again, this is also just recommended copy here for your review and recommendations to come back if there's any edits. But what I believe having an event arm for TTPC, it would be to serve our membership, you know, to enhance their lives. And honestly, I don't necessarily see this as being an enhancement of bringing in external folks all the time, but we have such good collective wisdom that we're able to just glean on each other to tell a story, to, you know, highlight our the things that we're really good at, to educate, and also just training. I think I thought about myself, you know, some of the things that I would need. And so I came up with 3 goals that I will later quantify in a charter of like how I will how we will gauge if they're working or not. But for the most part, you know, we obviously need to design a curriculum. Janine did a fantastic job and she's got a lot of framework, but going forward, so designs, content, and I say evergreen because as we get, you know, deeper into the membership and you know, year 3, year 5, you're going to want to be able to create a library of content that so every year you're not training on Job Tips 101 or something like that. And all of this content should be aligned to the core mission and values. And then the second goal is to not only educate our community, but also inspire them to become content creators and facilitators. And I think you build that with community, right? So, you know, you don't want to have the same few people speaking all the time, but, you know, just get people really excited about joining the mission and owning content, I think is something that doesn't happen right away. So it's building that inspiration. And then of course, my last final goal is to be able to harness the voices that we have in our membership, and not just harness them, you know, for our own good, which I think is a very important step, but be able to take the work that we're doing internally and amplify it externally, however that makes sense. And so some of the content that I thought would be important, you know, like tracks, if you will, as we think about an annual long-term strategy, would be tracks on career development. And I thought about this bucket all from job seeking to climbing the corporate ladder, you know, anything that has to do with, I will say, traditional career paths, if you will, right? Interviewing, coaching, mentoring, those types of situations. I thought health and wellness would be really great. And I see things here, you know, aligned to like mindfulness or, you know, anything that speaks to tracks that'll help us unlock our wellness. Finances, I think they've been really heavily on my mind. And I say this from the angle of like, you know, I saw this tweet yesterday where it was like, you know, we've been raised to just work, you know, till we can retire, you know, or beyond. Honestly, for people, at least Latinos, we don't retire at traditional age, but you know, you're raised to work, save your money, use your 401k for retirement, and that is like what we've been taught. At least that's what I was taught. And so I like to eradicate that. We need to teach each other about stocks and investing and bonds, and something that I'm like really interested in. I'm not an expert, but I thought that would help enrich us for the long term. And then of course, business, right? We have a lot of entrepreneurs on our membership. I would love to be an entrepreneur. And so I thought these were, you know, business 101, marketing 101. This is where our social media stuff could work, you know, teaching people. Kristen does a great job of like managing her social and her website. And so things like that of like that would really improve us, you know, for those individuals that have taken either a 2-path prong in their career or, you know, have taken the track of owning their own company. They would feel heard and get content for them as well. And then last but not least, social impact. And this is kind of a bigger bucket. I see this as like the area where we would talk about the generational trauma or colorism, anything that's like socially impactful, for lack of a better word. Those kinds of tracks would go here. Okay, so my recommended framework for this year, and of course, I think it's a plug and play for the next if everybody loves it, is to curate 9 events annually. I originally had 12 and I had to sit with it and I was like, you know, that's a lot of, you know, content to create year 1, but I do believe like year 2, we should align to having 12 curated events. And I do believe that these events should be influenced by the membership survey. In our executive meeting or council meeting that we had in December, we talked about putting together a membership survey. So I'm a firm believer of building, you know, product or building programs that match what people want to hear, right? So it doesn't matter. I could give you all these recommendations like I just did, and if membership doesn't like it, then it wouldn't be fruitful. And so the membership survey, I think, will be very important. And then current events, I think that we need to stay a little bit fluid, you know, and, you know, I'm making this up, but let's say in June 2021, we had planned XYZ and then something happened in May. Like, I think I need to be able to be like, okay, like let that one go, let's table that one, let's get this going. So that way we can service our membership for things that are happening now. I think I need to be fluid with the strategy. And then of course, last but not least, everything needs to align back to our mission and values. So I'm recommending 3 book clubs a year. I believe this is a great opportunity. Honestly, it wasn't my idea. It came up in one of the executive council brainstorming sessions. I am sorry, I can't remember who it was to give them credit, but a book club. And I think that's a fantastic idea because it matches across all of the pillars that I've recommended. And I see the book club more of a workshop setting. So, you know, we'd have a facilitator. I'm recommending that someone in the executive council runs it. So I mean this, like, if you're really passionate about XYZ, we help select a book with the membership, and then that council member, I would still run the event and do all of the logistics, but that individual would run the meeting, lead and facilitate that meeting. I'm recommending that we launch this, you know, by February, at the latest, the 27th would be our meeting. So I stuck to Saturdays, by the way, but that can also change. That way we have a tie-in with Black History Month, and I believe that was Kirsten's recommendation. So I love that idea. We're still working on the book. I will talk about that shortly, but I do believe that this is a great way to kick off. I think a lot of people are committing to reading books and whatnot for the new year. And so I think we could get a solid commitment from the membership. And then the second thing I thought about was power sessions. And I see these more of like conversational settings. So the opportunity to have intimate conversations. And I see this led by a facilitator. So for example, and I'm making this up, but we were going to talk about building an app. This probably wouldn't sit in the power session, but my brain is all over the place. We would bring in an app developer to walk us through these conversations and like really have real intimate, able to hold that space. And I, again, the app, example was not the right one. I'm seeing this more of like colorism, generational trauma, you know, like heavy conversations that we would bring in an expert to talk us through. But I want us to have conversations, right? And so, does someone have a question? No. Okay. So because we were choosing a book in February book club for colorism, I'm recommending that the power session is in March, aligned to colorism, but more to come because we haven't selected the book and I do need help with the book and then a subsequent power session. And then last but not least, I'd say I recommend that we do 3 speaker series. And these are more, you know, L&D, like learning and development. They're, you know, instructional. You have a teacher and we're just sitting here learning and quietly taking notes, right? Leading Q&A at the end. And I see this led by the membership. Of course, you know, that transition might be, you know, happening later on this year as we get, you know, people to feel comfortable with sharing and whatnot. So you know, probably to start, it would be executive council led, but I don't see us bringing in external folks for this session, unless there's like something fantastic that we want to do here. And then I would kick this off in April. And I don't have much details on this because I do believe this one's going to be heavily reliant on the survey since we're looking for members to facilitate. This is a roadmap. So January, obviously, all of the planning and framework, creating content and all of that to launch the book club in February, and then March, have the power session, and then the speaker series in April, which is Q2. But I'm visual, so I had to see it in the calendar. I want to do this for the full year. So I will create this out for every quarter and then a full year roadmap. But I wanted to have some stuff for y'all to glean on today. Okay, so I'm going to pause here just on the overall framework and see if anybody has any questions or thoughts before I jump into my book club. Help I need.
This is fantastic. I love that there's so much intention and things planned out. I love knowing what to anticipate. And I love the idea of getting input from membership and allowing us to take part in all of the all of the different things that you've designed here. This is really, really great.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Do you think, Tessa, it's a lot, too much?
Do I think it is too much? Okay, so I guess the questions I would have are these, the events, are they replacing this monthly meeting or are they in addition to?
I think we were going, like Janine and I were talking about that. I think some could be in conjunction with, depending on topic and timing. But like for the book club itself, I would automatically think that that would be its own meeting on a separate Saturday, or, you know, what we need to ask y'all what's better. Is it evenings? Is it Saturdays? But now power sessions, I could easily see that, you know, maybe taking the second half of a meeting, if, you know, there was time. But I do believe these would be could possibly be 9 additional touch points, non-mandatory, of course.
So
So
too much? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's awesome. I'll jump in a little bit. So, I mean, with the power sessions, because that was kind of my brainchild, I saw them as like quick snaps of like powerful conversation. So we're talking like 30 minutes. So, I mean, we can talk about it as far as, you know, when we have them, but I mean, they could be one-off sessions. It's almost like if you want to join it, if it's a topic that like resonates with you, then show up. You know what I mean? If it's not, then it's not, kind of thing. And realistically, I mean, the general meetings are designed to kind of give us, you know, a way to kind of connect with each other and all of those things. But I mean, we can always use that for other things. You know what I mean? Like there's not always going to be something huge to talk about. Like right now we're in the infancy of kind of birthing a new TTPC. So I think we can be creative and decide, you know, when we want to use general meeting for some of these things, and what needs to kind of be one-offs, you know, like on their own. But that's something I think I'll talk to Sally about. And I also wanted to mention, 'cause not everybody was with us in the beginning, like a big part of TTPC is that things have to be crowdsourced. That's my thing. I mean, it's my baby, it's my brand, yes, but this is your group, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm just a big fan of people having input into what they're signing up for, you know, so I don't ever want to curate anything that isn't going to be immediately practical for you, or useful for you, you know. So I think it'll be great once we can get the survey together and get it out to you all, so that you can tell us what you need and what is really top of mind for you, so we can create that content.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking, just like idea came to brain, is the speaker series could be pre-recorded, you know, and then, you know, we could send those out, watch at your leisure, and then we could have a meeting, you know, in the general meeting, talk about the speaker series. You know what I'm saying? So I'm all for not creating more, you know, things for y'all to feel like you have to do, because I have a strong feeling 2021 is going to be a slower replay of 2020, in terms of our space, right? And where we will be. And so I want to be intentional in the fact of your attention's going to be at home for a long time. I feel like, you know, my gut says that. And so wanting to provide content. So in that regard of like, hey, you're going to be looking for online content. Let us be your place, right? Because we have a community and we can talk to each other about it, versus like going on something on LinkedIn or wherever, and you don't have the community to back you up to talk about, process the feelings. I think that's the part. I think processing the feelings that we receive when we learn is something that I would like to include here. Any other thoughts before I move on to request your support on the book selection? No. So I will be honest, my lack of knowledge of colorism, just like really, what's the word I'm looking for? caused me to really like struggle with this part. But what I ended up doing is for the essence of time, I Googled on Goodreads, everywhere you could think of, using Google as the driver, Amazon, everywhere. And so I came up with these 5 books. I'm like, I even told Janine, like, I'm not in love with them. There are others on the top 10 list that didn't make the top 5 here, but they were like $50 books. And I think that that's a little bit much to ask for anyone, including me, who buys a lot of books. So know that. And I also, when we talked about this with the executive committee, wasn't sure if we were going, fiction, nonfiction. And so know that also. So I started, number 1 is The Vanishing Half, which is a fiction book that is in the New York Times bestseller, recently on Obama's, must read 2020 list. It's about twins that experience colorism, 2 different routes they take. I've read it. It's really good. It's written by a Black author. The second one, I'll be honest with you, it sounded very, very self-serving, but it's a memoir of this woman's father who lived like a white man, but then on his deathbed told the tale that he really was Black and had been like living this lie, if you will. And so after he passed, she wrote this whole book about it. 3 seemed more textbook in my opinion. And I looked at so many textbooks, but this one has, and none of them are very new that I could find, but this one was revised, I want to say in 2013, but it's been around for 20 or 30 years, but it was written by 2 white women in a very like research textbook style. And this is more about like the influences of beauty, culture, and standard that people place on skin color. And then the 4th one is Layers of Blackness. This was written by a Black woman. And this is also, I want to say this is the one that's free. She's no longer doing print, but you can go to her website and either print it out or get a Kindle version. And this is written about, from her perspective in research style as well. And then last but not least, this is a YA youth book, who is like brand new, came out a couple months ago. And it's about a 14 or 13-year-old girl that's experiencing some internalized racism and how she goes through. It's already making the bestsellers, also written by a Black author. I'll pause here and I'll put the camera piece back on. Seriously, will not be offended if everyone's like, these are horrible, because because I don't, and I'm very curious to hear from Kirsten, because this was kind of like your idea. So I don't know if anybody has any better book ideas or thoughts. I'll be quiet right now and listen.
Okay, you're gonna put me on the spot though, like,
Sorry.
I like the idea of the free book, since that is more of a research-based book, doing that in conjunction, if people are open to that, in a fiction book. And I haven't read The Vanishing Half. I think that's the one you said was fiction and newer. Mm-hmm. But something like The Bluest Eye would be something that I would recommend, just because it is highly peer-reviewed, and there are a lot of things that we can take from that, because it's a much older book, and it does absolutely touch on all of the aspects of colorism. There's another one called Shades of Differences: Why Skin Color Matters. That would be a nonfiction book. That's by Evelyn Glenn. But yeah, those are mine. Like I said, The Bluest Eye is probably one of my favorite books. So I'm biased in that regard. But I'm open to reading The Vanishing Half or any of these other ones. And like I said, I'm all for free, given, some of us have constraints with our pocket books.
No, that's exactly it. And I think The Vanishing Half is on sale. I can look. I think I got an email about it. After you do all those research, next thing you know, they're selling you everything on your Gmail. But Bluest Eye was also my favorite. As I grew up in Maryland, that was a required reading, in Montgomery County. And so I was like, I'm sure everybody already read it, but I do think that was also topping on everyone's must read list. If I think it's a great book too. I agree with you.
Oh, and then I have a question, because I know some of you some of you have kids, but as far as library cards go, are those free now, or do you have to pay for library cards now?
No, they're free. And now because of the COVID situation, they've tripled. I mean, most counties have tripled their online access, you know, to
Okay.
Kindle and readers. And so now because the libraries are closed, it's so much easier to get a library card. You could just do it online. Before you
Right.
had to go in and show your driver's license, you know what I'm saying? There was like a little bit more of a process. But the good part is, and I have to say this because of my kids, is you have access to like 3 or 4 you know, county-based, state-based, and then national-based online libraries. And so sometimes like The Vanishing Half might be hard to find, but other books are very easy to find with Kindle formats.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest, because I know I have a friend that's my age that, you know, does that checks for books free online from the library. So that's another option for folks that don't want to necessarily buy something.
No, and my thought was when I create the collateral to advertise this is I will send like, here's the book and here's the link where you can find it. So that way, you know, because I found so much research and I found it for free, I'm going to definitely like set everyone up for success. So they don't have to dive through the research that I already did. I think that's all I had. Oh, okay. So so once we select the book, sorry, sometimes I get really organized. My hope was to do it in the board meeting we were going to have today, but that got postponed. But I can put together an email and reach out to the executive council, figure out a book, solidify logistics. I would love to, the week of 110, get together, use that time to create the marketing collateral for it. And it doesn't take me long, but, you know, create the Zoom materials and all of that, and then message the membership. And then of course, give the membership reminders, and then host. And then last but not least, I mean, in my opinion, this would all be done for March, before March's board meeting. So that way I can focus March on the next event. And then there is one more event. As you see, it's a work in progress, but we were talking about doing an annual summit for September. So save the date, September of 2021-ish. You know, I don't know if it's like beginning or end of the month. And I do have some framework for it. I just didn't get around to typing it up, but it will be virtual this year just to save ourselves some headache. And I'm recommending that year one, we do half day. Obviously sourced by us. And, you know, I'm seeing this as a 6 a.m. start for me. So like a 9 a.m. Eastern to like about lunchtime. But I'll have more information to come back to y'all about that and how you could participate, because I'll definitely need people to support. But that is all that I had to share today. And so I will stop sharing. Thank you for the time.
Amazing. It was awesome. I think we have a lot to be excited about. And it's great to, you know, kind of see it after talking about it, because a lot of times we talk about stuff, but, you know, we don't actually put meat to it. So even though a lot of things are work in progress, it's still great. I know I'm seeing something about Shelley's vision. I mean, to be really frank, let's talk about that like just quickly before we end out. You know, Shelley had surgery on the 29th. And so I have, you know, reached out, and I will probably reach out again just to see where she's at with it. But I don't envision her being back anytime soon. You know, I'll get a better lay of the land from her, and I don't want to put that on her at all. So when we do this survey, that'll be something that I kind of take on and co-create with you all on, you know, what sorts of educational things we do, largely because that was kind of the spirit in which this all came about anyway. It was all based around education and me crowdsourcing things that you all needed. So we'll talk more about that, and I'll definitely put together some things that I can share, hopefully, you know, within the month about that. But
I want to say, just sorry to interrupt you, that it doesn't, I mean, I didn't have a chance to meet with the board because originally in my brain was I would meet with the board and then come back to y'all in February with, you know, the membership with a thing. So I don't want anyone to think that Shelley or, you know, I did not consult anyone in this, but the hope is when the board gets together, then we can dive deeper into, oh, you know, I do want to present this, you know, or I'm interested, because there's some philanthropic ideas. I'm sure other, you know, our other board members will help too. So know that it wasn't to shaft anyone. I just didn't know that we would be presenting like right away.
No, I mean, it's in the realm of just like what you said about being fluid. I'm not a fan of, you know, too much convention. There's a purpose for it, but I think sometimes we overdo it. And since many of us have worked in corporate America and continue to, I don't think we need one more thing that's going to be, you know, kind of banal and stuffy, to be quite frank. So I like to keep it easy, breezy. And, you know, I think this was a good way to kind of just get some quick feedback. Now we can go back to the executive council, you know, and really flesh some things out and look at where we want to be with stuff. But, you know, I think it's exciting. So hopefully you all feel really good about it. And, you know, we'll be communicating throughout the month about, you know, where all of this lies and what we decide. Before we go, I know Janelle, you just jumped in like real quick towards the end, but in the beginning of the meeting, we were sharing like what our thoughts were, our words were for 2021. So if you want to just jump in real quick and just say a quick hello and tell us like what your themes are or what you're envisioning for 2021, we'd love to hear it, because we didn't get you in the early part of the meeting.
Thank you, Janine, and sorry I'm late. I will have to review this meeting so I can maybe put a little more input on what we've been discussing. It's a good question because I really have not thought about it. Well, I have to say I always have this conversation with some of my friends and stuff that, you know, although we're in this pandemic and things, you know, I'm praying for people whose loved ones or have been touched by this pandemic. One thing that I am seeing so much of is people of color really taking off with businesses and becoming more creative. And, you know, I have seen a lot of successes, and I think that they've broken through the first part of what suppresses us, which is, you know, owning something, using your ideas to keep flowing. And so I think some of the things that I've been thinking about in 2021 is, you know, to keep seeing people thrive during this pandemic. I mean, obviously we all want it to be over, but I hope that after that people are in a better place. Some people are in a better place, including myself. I've done things during this pandemic that I never imagined. So for me, I'm hopeful, and I hope that, you know, I still keep seeing, especially people of color, just really thriving and thinking outside of the box.
Am I unmuted?
And Happy New Year's, everyone.
I love that. I think that's a great way to end the meeting. I see the same, you know, and I don't throw it out there a lot, only because I always want to be mindful of people who may not be in that place and space. You know, you don't want to like overshadow what's absolutely happening for them. But I do see a lot of success, and even for myself, a lot of great things are happening, you know. And so it's kind of like that duality of like, you know, holding space for the things that aren't so great throughout this pandemic, but also not being afraid to celebrate yourself for what you are doing, you know what I mean? Which is something I think we struggle with as, you know, women of color on a regular day, you know, like when there's not a pandemic, it's like we don't celebrate ourselves enough. And I think Alicia brought that up, you know, early in the meeting. So I think that's a great thing to carry with ourselves as we go through the month, is finding those small ways to celebrate those wins, you know what I mean? Celebrate ourselves in whatever way is meaningful, and celebrating other women that look like us too. You know, if it's not you, then it's not you. It's not your time. It's not your season. We've got to be able to honor that too. But if someone else is killing it out there, recognize that, big them up. You know what I mean? Like, that's a thing as well. So we are at the 11 o'clock mark. Thank you, ladies, for being here. I'll get all of this on the drive at some point so that you can review it and see it. I think I'm going to also I started a folder for the chat, because I find sometimes things are going on in the chat that people want to like tap back into. So I'll start putting the chat logs too for anybody that's interested in that. And hopefully soon we'll have the minutes also approved and ready for you from December. So you can see the executive minutes to see like what we were talking about in totality. And we'll keep you posted on all these other things. But you all have a great rest of your day. And don't forget to say hello in the Slack channel too. Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.